Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. Tom Dutta, like butter here. I am so excited about this interview. I've done so much prep for it because it's personal. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fast-paced. You're going to learn a lot today. Hey, in a tough world like this one, where we have so much going on that's not great, any of you have children out there or grandchildren? Wouldn't it be awesome if you could bring those children together in storytelling and maybe in a creative way in coloring? If you love that idea, check this out. All right, shameless plug there. Here it is. I'm holding it up. This is my third book published in May. It's a first coloring book. And this came out of a doctoral degree I'm currently doing through a university in London. And the key word on here, Talanoa Way, Talanoa being a Pacific Islander term, a method of communication that brings together people for communicating, telling stories. If you like that idea, check it out. It's available on Amazon. Really excited about how that's going. I got this magazine here. Isn't that cool? The British Columbia History Magazine. The best part about this magazine is that car. I was trying to guess, what is it, 2 tons of steel? If I put it on a scale, I was trying to figure out. And then there's this cool cat standing in front of it. But in the front of it, it says, Indo-Fijians, Our Long Journey Home. And I open up the cover, and look who's in there. You'll see him in a minute. That's our guest wearing this funky hat. So I'm going to read his bio, which is out of this article. Discover British Columbia's Indo-Fijians is the feature editor's note. Mr. Rizwaan Abbas is first-generation Canadian Muslim of Indo-Fijian descent. He holds an Associate of Arts degree from Douglas College, a Bachelor of Arts in Archaeology from Simon Fraser University, a professional specialization certificate in collections management from University of Victoria, a Master's of Science degree in Paleoanthropology and Paleolithic Archaeology with distinction from University College in London, School of Archaeology. I got to tell you, say that backwards a few times. This man is very, very smart. Rizwaan's been working as an archaeologist in British Columbia for over 2 decades and is a director of the Indo-Fijian Cultural Society of Canada. He's also a member of the Historical Discrimination Against People of South Asia Descent Advisory Committee. Big deal for the conversation today, everyone. And the South Asian Canadian Museum Engagement Committee. I mean, I get a sense that his mission is just beginning, and I only met him a few months ago. So welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, Rizwaan.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me, man.
Okay. I'll call you Riz. How's that?
Yeah, that's fine. Totally.
Now, I was trying to make sure I get all the names right, and I remember I was saying about your last name, so kind of a little trick here. Abba, the band Abba with an S at the end. So it's pretty cool. Hey, the show's all about storytelling. I thought today we're going to get to know you. We're going to weave through many parts of your story and what you're doing for a living. But before that, let me just ask you to tell everybody, where do you live? What part of the world are you in?
Well, I live here in Vancouver, British Columbia, in one of the bedroom communities in Surrey, in Canada. And I grew up in southeastern British Columbia in a coal mining town called Sparwood in the Kootenays. So I think growing up in the Kootenays was just one of the best things that could have happened.
And You and I met recently. Just for the sake of the audience, I walked into a room and you were doing a presentation. Just what was the topic or the day? You had a title for that.
Yeah, well, that was May 14th, which traditionally in Fiji is known as Gilmit Day. And that's a day that's celebrated as the first arrival of Indians from India to Fiji, which was May 14th. So we here in Canada, we celebrate it a little bit differently. As a matter of fact, we don't even celebrate it at all. We observe the day more like a Gurmitia Day, as opposed to talking about the institution that put the people into the shackles, the Girmit, which is indentured labor, which we can talk about, of course. What we do is we honor the stories of the people themselves, the Girmitias, our ancestors, the people who actually had to struggle, and through their resiliency and hard work is the reason why you and I are here today. And I think that's something that needs to be celebrated. But that can't be done until we actually start observing and honoring the stories of our ancestors. So yeah, that's what we're talking about that day. Yeah.
Yeah, and for the audience sake, I mean, we're on visual here. If you listen to the podcast, come back and listen to this first part. It's very important. We're going to go on a journey with Rizwaan and into this history of indentured slavery in India and Fiji, a story I did not know until I walked into that room. I have to tell you that day changed my life. And I will reveal on the show today, so everybody has to stand right till the end. I'll reveal on the show today what I learned about my own ancestry just through learning this story and doing some research. So I'm very excited about it. But hey, we're not going to be talking heads, right? I'm not going to just sit here asking you questions. We're going to go into Plato's Garden. Are you ready to go into Plato's Garden? And you're probably saying, what the hell is that? Are you ready to do Plato's Garden?
Let's do it.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to connect the dots between what's going on in the world, what's going on in your sector or your work, or what's really going on deep inside you? Well, welcome to Plato's Garden. Plato's Garden, who was Plato? And he was an Athenian philosopher during the classical period in ancient Greece. Now, Riz knows all this because he's an expert in these fields. But for the audience, he was this founder of the Platonist school of thought and the academy. Now, what's cool is the word academia. Academy comes from that. Apparently, this might have been the first institution of higher learning in the Western world. In my doctoral degree, one of the things they've taught me is that business people, Rizwaan, they say we don't do this very well. We don't do what's called critical thinking. We go fast. We're at work, we're thinking about our job. Then at home, maybe we're thinking about our family. But if we step back and we say, what's the influences of context of everything in Rizwaan's life? And we have three areas. One is macro. So what's happening in the real world around you, Rizwaan, that may have influenced your public works? And your public works are basically everything you're doing that's becoming part of the public, your book, your writings, etc. Two, meso. What was happening in your sector, your industry? So this is your work that influenced that public work. And then finally, my favorite is micro. This is you as an individual digging deep into who's the man. Well, let's humanize him. So what was happening in your personal life that may have influenced your public works, or sometimes I might call that your mission. The first one is sort of in the theme of academic foundations and cultural roots. So let me just throw this out. And we'll just riff on it, tell some stories. Rizwaan, your journey from academia to your current role as an archaeologist, I believe, has been deeply intertwined with your commitment to understanding and preserving Indo-Fijian heritage. So share how your early academic experiences, particularly in the studies of archaeology, paleoanthropology, and even your upbringing as a child through to your youth, shaped your passion for cultural preservation.
Sure, man. Yeah. My passion for archaeology undoubtedly starts with grade 7, Miss Holland's class in social studies. We learned about Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and the evolution of humans, of people. Yeah. And it blew my mind. It completely blew my mind that there were people that lived on this world before us that kind of looked like us, but weren't quite just like us. And there was this evolutionary pattern that happened. And that always stuck with me. And we also studied Egypt and Mesopotamia and these cultures that didn't exist anymore. And just the idea of having archaeologists go in and find the remnants of these people and try to identify their culture and build a culture out of this was fascinating to me. It was something that stuck with me for throughout high school. And then I graduated high school, and undoubtedly, like any other South Asian person that I know, or like most, I went into business school and decided to go to take business courses and be a businessman and make money. And it sucked, man. It sucked. It was like the worst decision I had made. Like I got on academic probation.
Hang on. We're riffing here, so back and forth. So making money sucked, or going into business sucked?
No, going business classes sucked. Like I thought I was doing what was the path I should be taking was business and getting a job and making money. And the courses sucked, accounting and business and all these dry courses that I was taking. And I was taking advertising courses and economics courses, and then undoubtedly ended up getting kicked out of Douglas College because of it, because I just didn't finish any of my courses. I wasn't interested in any of them, and bounced around here and there for a while. Went to couple other different universities and got kicked out of those ones as well, and went back to Douglas College. And I was talking to an academic advisor there, and she said, basically in a nutshell, that there's some courses in this university that are very difficult, such as macroeconomics, that everybody thinks is hard. And to me, a light bulb went off, because I had just taken and failed that course like 3 times already. But it wasn't really that hard. It was just me not working hard enough to do it. Yeah. And then she said, there's some courses that no matter how hard you try, C+ is the best you can get. And for me, that was statistics course. I mean, I just can't wrap my heads around numbers the way other people can. And I had that light bulb moment, that aha moment of saying that it was just up to me to try and do the work that I needed to do, because everything was attainable. It was just up to me to put the work in. So then I had to like work backwards and finish all those business courses that I failed. And just to get my GPA up to a point where I could go to Simon Fraser and get an archaeology degree. And then that was a point where I decided, well, if I'm going to spend all this time and money doing what I want to do, I might as well do what I enjoy. And archaeology was it. And then when I got my degree, I decided to study indigenous archaeology and the Northwest Coast archaeology, because I didn't feel like there was anything in my culture to study. So I didn't want it. There wasn't anything to study. So I'm going to go study indigenous people instead and help them out. That was kind of my whole idea. That was
just define that, if you can, for the audience sake. When you say indigenous archaeology, just define that.
Well, here in British Columbia, the indigenous people here, the First Nations of this land, they've been here for time immemorial. And as an archaeologist here in British Columbia, my job is to identify their culture and to help them identify, I should say. I don't. And so that's what I do, is I work with the indigenous people here in British Columbia and make sure that their heritage and culture is preserved while other like construction and other things are happening in the world, which we cannot stop. But at least we can preserve the heritage. So that's what I was thinking. That's what I thought I was doing, was going to help the indigenous population here. And 20 years later, I came to realize, after looking at the reconciliation efforts that the indigenous people are doing here, how they reclaim their story and reclaim their land, or are trying to reclaim their story and trying to reclaim their land. It inspired me. It inspired me to do that for my own people. Yeah. But the thing is, like, even that inspiration to do that for my own people, it wasn't just the reconciliation efforts of the indigenous people that got me to that point. But I think that was what it has motivated me to keep going. But as far as like going through school was considered, at undergrad, when I was very young, back in my 20s, there was a gentleman by the name of Richard who had a PhD already, and we were at field school. And he told me that you should wait about 5 years between degrees, just to get the work and the life experience that you should get between making a decision of where you should study next. And I kind of took that to heart, and that's what I did. So between, say, my undergrad, where I was studying indigenous archaeology, to my master's degree, there was a good 12 years actually of space between them. And in that time, I came to realize, I went to do my master's because I actually did it in paleoanthropology and Paleolithic archaeology, which essentially is the study of human evolution and the study of their artifacts from 2.6 million to about 1.8 million years ago. So this
So
is
an
a very
artifact would be
long period.
stuff that you would find in the ground, or if you're on a site, so they call it a dig, or just help me understand that.
Yeah, yeah. An artifact would be anything that was manipulated by human hands.
Yeah, I
So it
see.
could be any, like two rocks banged together, and the flakes that, like the pieces that fall off of that, those would all
Yeah,
be artifacts, and the rocks themselves.
that's cool.
Yeah. So and not just the actual arrowhead itself, but the the pieces that fall off from making that arrowhead, those are all considered artifacts.
That's interesting.
So that's what I was studying, and the reason I did that was because, I mean, I was motivated to do that back in grade 7. So I thought I'd go back to school and go back to go doing what it was that I loved, and pulled me into doing archaeology in the first place. But after I got out of my grad school, there wasn't really much. There wasn't much I could do as a paleoanthropologist without a PhD. And honestly, I wasn't ready to get a PhD in paleoanthropology. And I didn't really feel like that was something that I really wanted to hang my hat on. I mean, as you know, being a PhD student, I mean, after you do that, that's what you're an expert on. And it took me a couple more years. You know, I think about eight more years between then and now, where I've come to be prepared in a place where I'm ready to do a PhD. But now it's more towards my Indo-Fijian culture and heritage, as opposed to archaeology. But there's obviously going to be an archaeology aspect to it too. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Everybody, we're with Rizwaan Abbas here, Director of Indo-Fijian Cultural Society of Canada. You can see that on the screen if you're watching. You know, this is fascinating. I just put back up on the screen there from Plato's Garden. So, you know, you can kind of see as we're talking to Rizwaan, you know, I'm kind of thinking as you're talking, like the macro global world. When you said about Mrs. Hall in 7th grade, my mind went right back to my grade 7 teacher, Mrs. Helloff's. And it's really interesting, man, because I wrote about this in one of my first book, that I was, as a kid growing up with the color skin I have, and just for the sake of this conversation, my parents are from Fiji, my grandparents from India, and I came through England, where my dad was in the armed forces, to Canada at age 6. So, you know, but when I came here, Riz, you probably had the same experience in some ways. There were trees everywhere. It wasn't as developed as it is today in terms of the areas where I grew up. And some funny things happened to me in school. I was picked on. It's called names, raghead, Hindu. And I was one of those sensitive kids. I was a little heavyweight too. And I remember I'd go home, but I'd be crying sometimes, and my mom would stand me up, say, "Don't you ever let anybody say anything about you. You're just as good as them." Well, in school, I was ostracized a bit, and I kind of was a geeky, nerdy kid. So I had, you know, one or two friends, was in the chess club, etc. But Mrs. Helloff's would bring me in and have me read stuff. She became sort of that mentor, and I got involved in learning about history and things. So I think we're kindred souls. It's kind of like our paths have crossed recently, but I'm going like, where was this man? I needed him back in my early life, so it's a real blessing. I want to go back to something you were talking about, the grade 7 era, etc. So you were born where?
Sparwood,
Right.
BC.
Yeah, and you know, you were telling me some crazy things. So you got kind of you have had some passions like hockey and other things. So you're just this average kid, right? Had some passions of sports and things like that.
We were just like any other kid growing up in small town Canada. We played hockey. You know, we played sports outside, road hockey all the time with our friends. But growing up in Sparwood, well, the one thing I didn't get to do though was I didn't get to play ice hockey. And part of that, I put some of that onus on me to not force my parents to put me in ice hockey. But it wasn't like a priority for my parents being immigrants to put their kids into ice hockey and play. So I never got to do that, but I got to play so much hockey and quench my thirst for playing ball hockey in the streets that even to this day, I still play competitively here in some ball hockey leagues.
Yeah, everybody, we're bringing some history in here for those non-Canadians. I mean, hockey's, the Americans watched it like crazy, the NHL. Hey, man, I remember after school, I used to get my friend Cliffy. His dad ran a printing press. He was there from Quebec, you know, Caucasian family, young, wonderful guy. And Cliff had hair down to here like a rock star. And he would freeze. His dad had this big backyard, and there would be a cement slab. So it would get cold here in the winters. We would put some water down, freeze it, and basically in our running shoes or sneakers, play ball hockey. And as you said, I never forget. I don't know if you ever remember this, but we used to take our sticks and cut the ends off our wooden sticks, and used to go to Canadian Tire, and they had these plastic or ends for the sticks. You would put it on, screw it on, and then you would go to the stove, turn it on in the kitchen, warm it up, and then put this wicked hook on it, and then you'd be basically whacking that ball, and it would do all these weird things. And I'm just being crazy and silly here, but my mind goes in a journey creatively. I was thinking, like, man, that's kind of like the story of your life. It's like the ball didn't go straight. It went all over the damn place. I'll finish with this, and I'll give it back to you with a thought to riff on. That you said something, everyone. It's a teaching moment with Rizwaan here. You said a light bulb went on in your head. You were in school, and you used the term kicked out. I don't think you were kicked out. I think you were like, there's many stories like Einstein, Zuckerberg of Facebook, the guy did Microsoft, Gates, these very brilliant people, but they can't sit in a classroom and do the same thing over and over every day because they're so creative. They have this thirst to go out and do something with their brain. I think you, bro, you're that guy. I'm so impressed that you went back and got all those educations, though. I wrote down here on my paper, do what I enjoy, and that's a big piece of it. And it makes me think about your mom and dad. So everybody, I'll give it back to you to talk about that. But our parents shape us. My dad died years ago. I didn't have a dad after age 12, but something growing up, man, kind of shaped you. Talk about your mom and dad, and who nurtured you, who shaped you, and how did that impact this work you're doing? And then we'll get into the next part of this story.
Yeah, well, I mean, parents, like any other South Asian family, parents, mother especially, has been really important in my life. I mean, she's been, our counselor, advisor, therapist, sounding board, you name it. She's still, to this day, I mean, I'm 46 years old and I still rely on my mom for everything. So, that's my mom has really been a support system that I can't shake. But my dad, on the other hand, has also been kind of like, your typical South Asian dad too. Like he worked his butt off, and that's what he did. He worked to give us a life. He worked to give us a life here in Canada. He came to Canada in 1973 with $20 in his pocket. And excuse me, he passed away 4 years ago in 2020. His net worth was $1 million, over $1 million. Like, he lived the Canadian dream. He came here to do what he set out to do. He came here to build a life for his family. He took advantage of living in this country, and the country gave him the things that Fiji couldn't offer to him. And because of that, he gave me the opportunity to take full advantage of all these things that Canada can offer and give me. And I took full advantage of them. I mean, you talked about my education. I mean, I think that, and I'm not even done yet, but I'm going to use the British education system as to my full advantage or the colonial system, because why the heck not, right?
Absolutely.
But
and you lived there. You lived in the UK at some point too, I think.
Yeah, I did for while I was there for grad school. I lived in the UK, and that was a great experience as well. I mean, I think having the opportunity to move and live in different places is just how you enrich yourself as a person and get to know more about the world, because we're so used to living in our own cocoon and living in our own small circle of people that we don't get to see what it's like out there. And I think you and I have this in common, is that growing up in such a secluded place where we're the minority, we didn't just get racism. Like, I mean, I couldn't understand why people called me a Paki because I'm not from Pakistan. I just couldn't wrap my head around that until I got older, and these things all made sense to me. But with that being said,
we all look alike, apparently.
Yeah, right. I'm cousins with everybody, right?
Apparently, I look like you. If I put a beard on, I'd be you. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, we got glasses and shaved head, right? So we must be the same person, of course. But one of the other things that happened in Sparwood was I got exposed to different cultures. My best friends growing up, dude, were South Asian and European white guys, and they still are. Like, I still am friends with those people now. And I got to have dinner at their house. I got to see what their parents were like. I got to see two people kiss for the first time in grade 7, and it blew my mind because we don't do that in my household.
Yeah.
And when I moved to Surrey, and I saw that my culture was very constrained and it had very strict rules of how we do things. I questioned it because I know a different way of life. I've seen different ways of life growing up. So I think that was one of the biggest reasons I got pushed towards doing archaeology and cultural studies, is because I was studying my own people from like when I first moved here at 15 years old.
Listen, when you said what you said about growing up, I grew up here. So my parents divorced when I was 12. Had part of my life I remember that was good, but the rest of it was just my dad was just unfortunately addicted to alcohol. But I went out into the real world like you, and most of my influencers and mentors were European, Canadian, white folks, right? And that's what shaped me. And what's interesting is what I really like about what you're doing in your story. I think you have a worldview that everyone, I think Rizwaan, can, because you've been shaped by other cultures. The word assimilation, maybe you can just talk about that too. But there's a lot of people who come to this country who ask me, Tom, how did you get to be a high-level leader? How did you get to do this? Because of the color of your skin, we talk funny. And I'm going like, assimilation, man. Go outside of your comfort zone and learn from others and, try to adopt some of that in your way of life, but preserve your main heritage. So I'm going to throw out a second question here that we can kind of riff on, because we're going to take a turn into this next fascinating part of your work. I call this confronting historical injustices. Let me just throw this out there. Your involvement with committees and organized things addressing historical discrimination against South Asians in Vancouver, it speaks to a broader mission of justice and education to me. How do you see the work of confronting these historical injustices influencing both your personal identity and your professional mission? I know it's a loaded question. There's a lot in there. The Gurmit thing kind of plays into that. So tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a great opportunity for me to quote my favorite line. This is what I like to say. If history is written by the victors, there comes a point in time in history that the victims themselves write their own history. You may not like it. It may make you feel uncomfortable, but it's our history nonetheless. And I feel like that's where we are in society right now. We're at a point where the conquered, the minorities, the people who don't have a voice, are not just speaking up, but they're starting to come to realize that our story has value, that our story has history, and our history needs to be told. And I think that we're just on the precipice of that with the Indo-Fijian with the Indo-Fijian people and our culture. But this is where the reconciliation effort of the Indigenous people has been so important to what I'm trying to do, is because I see their examples, and you see it in the streets. You drive up to Whistler and you see the signs that are written in Indigenous languages. You don't have to read those signs. You don't have to understand what they mean, but that Indigenous people are here because of those things. And that's something that we're trying to do with our society here in Canada and in British Columbia, is to try to create a culture identity for ourselves.
Yeah, I'm going to throw some on the screen here. I mentioned to you before we went live that I created a PowerPoint. After meeting Rizwaan, everybody, and learning about this chapter in Indo-Fijian history, I created this PowerPoint with some things. Just get into that, the indentured slave system. I'll just read it off the screen there for those on the podcast. Indentured labor system that transported over 60,000 Indians from India to the British colony of Fiji between 1879 and 1916. So that day I walked in that room with you, man, I never knew this story. I learned that you learned years ago that there's a connection to that story through your family. And so just talk about that. What was this Gurmatia thing? What was this all about? Most people don't know.
Well, yeah, most people don't know. And it's not something that's taught. It's not something that's talked about or discussed between families and between people, because it talks about a lot of injustice that happened and a lot of hardship that happened to our Indo-Fijian ancestors. Yeah. So after the abolishment of slavery, the colonial industry of the world needed some sort of cheap labor. So they came up with this idea of indentured labor, where you would sign contracts, and you sign people up with a contract, and they have a certain list of provisions of what they get in return for a certain amount of work that they do. So it could be anywhere from 5 years or 10 years or whatever the contract is. So that's the way they kind of circumvented the slavery system, was to have kind of this chattel, what I like to call a chattel system. So you could pretty much own these people for the next 5 years. Now you have to understand that if this system was on the up and up, then it would be above board right from the beginning. But it never was. Like right from the beginning, the recruiters who picked the future indentured laborers, they went and found the vulnerable, they found the weak, they found the greedy, they found the needy, the helpless, they found the vulnerable people in society in India, and got them, entrapped them, lied to them, told them about these great stories of great pay for easy work, and played to their base human emotions. Yeah. And the thing was just used systematically to break down the Indian people. Like, for example, once you agreed to do this, they put you in a depot where you had to sit there for a few days and get all the paperwork done and whatnot before you were shipped off. But while you were in the depot, you had to eat with people of different castes or different religions. And now these are social taboos, man. This is something Absolutely. You can't do in culture. Totally. And the colonial people who set the system up knew that. They knew, I mean, don't tell me they didn't know this stuff. They wrote books about this stuff. So They knew that the second that we got this person into the walls and they sat there and ate, they would not be able to go back to their home, because they've now lost their caste, they've lost their status in society, and they'll be shunned. So at that point, they're pretty much forced now to have to go to Fiji, a place they don't even know how far it is, right? And they end up going there.
Wow. Let me just jump in and riff on that. Keep that in your mind where you're at there. When I heard about this story, everybody, that day I was in the room when you were doing your presentation, it really got to me. And then I heard many people, young people in that room, talking about how this generation now, they don't even know who they are. And the thing, when you said that story, I'm not laughing about it, I'm just chuckling, because it's how I deal with painful things. That when you said about this taboo, like my dad told me that we're Brahmins, right? And I never really understood a lot about the caste system, but I've educated myself. But when you said taboo, it reminded me because we talk about indigenous peoples as well here. I took a course when I was on a board of directors with mental health group here locally called Sanyas training, and it was about the school system that they created for the indigenous peoples. You know that chapter? It's an ugly chapter in that side of our heritage. And I remember just one moment in there where I saw a video of one of the survivors, and he said that he was taken away from his family. This is an indigenous family, basically taken away. He was something like 12 years old. They cut his hair. And then it went on to describe that when you cut your hair in that culture, you know this, I'm sure, that you do that when somebody's died. It's taken, cut off hair, thrown into these schools, and then tortured, treated terribly. And so there's parallels to this story we're talking about. So I want to get deep into this. I'm going to put back on the screen a PowerPoint slide just so we can see a timeline. I think you vetted it and told me it's fairly accurate. Just take us through quickly sort of the timeline of this history.
Yeah, so 1879 was when the first ships sent gavetias on the Leonidas. And that was when the first people came in here. The 1834. So we already talked about after the abolishment of slavery in 1834 is when they had indentured labor. And indentured labor isn't just something that happened to Indians in Fiji. Now there are, there's Indo-Caribbean people, there's Indo-Mauritian people, there's Indians all over the world that have been shipped. Millions of people have been shipped all over the place. And then by 1916, now what happened was, the abolishment of slavery ended in 1916 in India. That didn't mean that they didn't stop. The ships still sent people till 1920. But it's something that people don't know, and something that people don't talk about, is that the Indian government abolished indentured labor in India mainly and largely because of the pressure put on by the gavetias, by the indentured laborers of Fiji. Fiji had an exorbitant amount of suicides compared to all the other colonies throughout the British world. It also had well, there's the suicides, of course, but there was this individual named Pandit Totaram Sanadia who went back to Fiji, who was a Girimitia, who went back to Fiji after he had served his time. Excuse me, it gets me a little emotional. But he wrote a book. He wrote a book talking about the atrocities that happened. It was basically it was not only the first book published by an Indo-Fijian person, but it was also a slave narrative talking about the atrocities that he endured and that he saw people suffer.
Do you know the name of that book?
Was in Fiji.
Do you have the name
yes,
of that book?
It's called My 21 Years in Fiji.
Yeah.
Or Meri 21 Varsh Fiji Desh Mein, which is in Hindi, but it's translated. And that book obviously was banned from being sold in Fiji until up to the 1990s. But the pressure, that book, plus the pressure from the Girmitias in Fiji, helped to end indentured labor in Fiji. As a matter of fact, Mahatma Gandhi had his first attempt at passive resistance was to block a train that was taking Girmitias to a depot that was headed to Fiji. And people don't know these things. Yeah.
Dude, let me just stop there. I'm getting just so emotionally and excited. Like, I watched the movie Gandhi over and over because it connects me to my roots where I've never been back to. That's crazy. Tell us,
dude, like
just keep
that
going.
that scene in Gandhi where he's getting rocks thrown at him and he doesn't move and he's standing in front of that train station. The people in that train that are behind him, they're on their way to Fiji, man. That could be our ancestors in that train.
Wow. That's nuts. I want to just remove that image from the screen there. We're just going to put us back. I'm going to put on another camera here for a reason. There we go. Hey, how's it going? I'm waving to you from my studio cam. You can see all this stuff on my desk here. I got this this book here. Hey, getting to know this man has given me so much. I found a part of my professor, Kate McGuire, back in the UK, who I've mentioned her to you. When she got to know me my first year of my doctoral, and I was going through a lot of internal pain because my dad died in 2018, but I never saw him for most of my life because he left home. And I really didn't have a connection to my roots. So I didn't realize how deeply I was, like she calls me, this modern day Siddhartha, searching and seeking. So when I went to your open house there that day where you revealed this story, which, by the way, we'll get you to tell us more about what you're doing with that. I think you do it every year. I saw this book on one of the displays, a picture of it. So I went and bought this book. It's called Tears in Paradise, Suffering and Struggles of Indians in Fiji. And it's by Rajendra Prasad. You're familiar with this book, I think, right?
Oh, very much so, yes. Yeah.
Now, it's a big read, everybody, but if you don't mind, I'm going to say this just to get a little deeper emotionally in this story and then give it back to you to keep going with it, what you were saying. I'm just going to read this, everybody. This is like page 9, right at the beginning. And Tears in Paradise. Indo-Fijians are the descendants of indentured laborers who were recruited from India by the British 1879 to 1916 to work in the sugarcane plantations in Fiji. It was a British colony from 1874 to 1970. The indenture system was the successor to a reform system of slavery in that it was a contractual agreement for a fixed period of 5 years. Under the indenture system, the British from 1934 to 1916 recruited Indian nationals from its colonial outposts. 60,553 indentured laborers were recruited for Fiji under that system. The last piece here, this it gets harder. The terms and conditions of the contract bound the recruits for 9 hours of work per day, 5.5 days per week. The employers were to provide accommodation, medical facilities, including rations for the first 6 months. Each adult male 15 years and over received 1 shilling per day. An adult female received 9 pence per day. The assignment of work was generally by task. Women were expected to do 3/4 of a man's. After 10 years residence, the recruits qualified for a free return passage to India, or they could return to India at their own expense upon completion of their 5-year term of indenture. It was a system of manipulation, domination, intimidation, exploitation of human labor. Mental and physical violence were mercilessly used to increase productivity and raise the profitability of the economy. The book is so detailed with horrific through the eyes of this guy who wrote it stories. Tell me how you feel when you hear me say that, and tell me more. Take us back into that chapter you were just describing.
Well, what you talk about seems, Rajendra Prasad's book itself is a very charged emotional book. When I read it, there's points where I had to put it down and wipe tears from my eyes. It's a very strong, powerful book. He uses very descriptive words and he doesn't hold back. With that being said, I think what you just read was fairly tame to people who don't have the context of what actually was happening here. Now, the idea was, sure, you were going to get paid a certain amount of money for a certain task, but when you got off the boat, and there's documented evidence of this, the overseer would come to you and be like, I own you now for the next 5 years. So they did. They treated these people worse than cattle. They housed them worse than they housed their horses.
My God.
They gave them inadequate food without the amount of nutrients needed, and not enough food for a whole 7 days. Now you have to understand that in these kinds of squalor that they were living in, and let's not talk about the filth of the actual living conditions.
It was like coolie huts. I saw at your presentation sort of images.
Yeah. And the coolie huts were
no, actually, you know what? Just go there, describe it, just for the sake of this. People need to get into this feeling.
Sure. The coolie huts themselves are the houses themselves had no privacy. That was one of the things that was, I think, probably the worst part about it. So the walls didn't go all the way up to the roof because of ventilation issues. So they had this hole up at the top. Now, a family of 4 lived in one house with one room, and right next to them, sharing them with them, would be a group of 4 men. Now, there's no privacy there. Women were consistently and constantly bombarded with advances of whether it be Gurmitias or the overseers themselves. And one of the worst parts was they recruited 3 men for every 1 woman. So there wasn't even enough women around. So like we talked about suicides before, one of the other issues that men had was that they had constantly, there would be fights over women, and, suicides and murders happening because of stuff like that. And now I'm starting to get into the effects of indentured labor, and we can talk about that after. Let's just talk about what the indentured labor itself did. It was just lies. And basically it was the overseer's mission to make sure that you left with more money owed to him than money in your pocket, so living expenses, housing expenses, all these things they would like nickel and dime you for. Or if you didn't finish a task, then you can get jailed, or you can get beat. There's so many things that could happen to you. Like, this was basically slavery in a different form.
Man,
and I don't like these.
I can't imagine. I'm trying to visualize being 17 years old and being in that environment. So just keep going. Sorry.
And I try my hardest not to say slavery, because true slavery, you don't have freedom.
Yeah.
So our ancestors, they had some freedoms, and after 5 years they were free, but they were broken in those 5 years. And when they came out of that, they didn't come out better people at all. And that's the thing that nobody talks about. And that's that's the trickle down effect to the 4 or 5 generations that are here, like your dad and his alcoholism. It's not, there's a trickle down effect of all of these things that happened from only his grandfather, right? Because his grandfather was a Girmitia and his dad was treated the way his grandfather was treated by his overseer. Then it's only, it's a matter of time before somebody has to identify it. We have to stop this thing. And that's what we're trying to do with the society, is we're trying to get to these mental health issues.
Yeah. Tell me what you see on the screen there. Just read that out loud.
Sure. I, the undersigned, do hereby voluntarily agree to proceed to the colony of Fiji and to serve there for a term of 5 years on the same terms and conditions as other Indian immigrants.
So that's basically the oath that they took, right?
Yeah. And the thing is with that oath is it's in English, and they were told in court, this is the oath. Do you agree to it? Now I can speak Hindi, And
Yeah.
there's a lot of people in your country now. If I can, let's there's lots of countries in the world right now that are listening. Now, what if I just started breaking out in Hindi right now and got you to agree to something for me, without you understanding anything about what you were agreeing to? This is what was happening. They were pushing out like 60 people every 20 minutes through the court system. Do you agree with what was agreed upon? Do you agree with what was agreed upon? Do you agree with what you were agreed upon? I mean, it was a farce. Like this is how the colonial system, covers their butt. It's like, oh, they made an oath. Yeah. Okay.
I want to put something on the screen. Everybody with Rizwaan Abbas, we're talking about this chapter, a horrible chapter, indentured slaves. You see on the thumbnail for the show, today's show that I put up on the screen. For those on the podcast, you can't see it, but there's a picture of a piece of paper there. That's the actual contract, right?
Yes, that's the actual indent. That's not the contract. That's the boarding pass.
The boarding pass.
The boarding pass to get to Fiji on the ships.
And you have a wonderful Canadianized accent, but you can say Fiji Indian words with a nice flair, because I don't have that. The word gurmit, I learned this in the presentation at your day there. The Indians couldn't say contract, so I think that's where the word gurmit came from, right?
Yeah, the word gidimit is actually a derivative of the word agreement.
Agreement. Okay.
So okay, here's my worst English accent, but sorry, chap, you have to come to work today. We have an agreement, right? So this is, that's what they said. So here, right?
Agreement.
Yeah. So here we have our ancestors who don't speak the language and don't understand English at all. So ka kari bhaiya, bolin gidimit kare kabadi, right? So you have agreement, and it kind of the derivative of the word agreement. The best they could come out with was gidimit. And that's what the word means. But what I've tried to do through my work and through my work mainly is to change the meaning of the word gidimit, because that word has been used historically in a very colonial context.
Yeah.
We have, like, in Fiji, you have Gidimit Day. We have, everyone always talks, when you talk about the history of our people, it's always in the context of Gidimit. As a matter of fact, there's a documentary that's coming out just this month about the indentured laborer in Fiji, but the title is Gidimit. So once again, the title is about indentured labor, the agreement, as opposed to about Gidimitias being the people themselves. So what we try to do here in Canada is we try to focus our story on Gidimitias, the people. So we can talk about our people using our words, our stories, and what we identify with, instead of coming with it from an apologist's perspective and talking about the shackles of indentured labor and talking about Gidimit. At the very least, what I want people to do, right, is I want people to walk away from a conversation that we have and know something about our culture, know something about our people. And when we talk about Gidimit, you have a person come up to us and say, well, what does Gidimit mean? And, you can describe to them how it's the derivative of the word agreement, and they walk away knowing that Gidimit actually means agreement, which is actually the indentured labor. That's fine. That's they learn something about our history and people. But if they come to me and say, hey, what is a Gidimitia? Then I can talk to them about the people of India that came to Fiji and worked there for 5 years in horrible conditions. And because of their hard work and resiliency, I'm here today. And I come with a place of power. I come with a place of resiliency and pride of my people, from a foundation of Gidimit ancestors that all of us Indo-Fijians, most all of us Indo-Fijians share. And that's something that they don't want us to have. It's a colonial construct. Let's just keep it talking about Gidimit and celebrating the tears and the horror, instead of talking about the resiliency and the sacrifice.
I love that part of the story. I'm all about resiliency, man. And you're a picture of that. I put on the screen there some numbers. You can just tell me if you think they're accurate. But basically, what I've been learning from you and some of the things I've read is that this whole thing changed the landscape of Fiji. And basically, 1879, I think the numbers were upwards to 60,000. There was also another thread you talked about at the presentation you did about some 400 just didn't make it on the journey of the ships. Can you comment on that?
Yeah. Well, it seems like I'm talking to you. I'm sitting on a soapbox here and just kind of blah 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 blah.
No, I
And
want to
hot
keep that
garbage
going.
coming out of my mouth, man.
No,
But
we're educating people, man. That's what this
yeah,
is about.
awesome. Yeah, the population increased considerably between because you can see on the graphic there, 588 to about 60,000 people, and we focus a lot on those 60,000 people. But there was about 498 people based on the records that didn't make the trip. They got on a boat in India, but they didn't land on Fijian shores. They either died on the trip, killed on the trip, thrown overboard, what have you. There are also children that were born, and there's stories of newborns that were born on the ship that were murdered by colonialists because they were making too much noise. So what we do on Girimitia Day on May 14th here in Canada is we don't just observe the day for our ancestors, but we also observe the day and honor those 498 people as well. Those people who don't leave kin behind to pray for them or to think about them. So it's really important that we remember all of the people that had sacrificed to themselves in that journey from India to Fiji.
No, I think that's amazing, man. I'm going to share something on the screen here, so it'll take me 30 seconds to find it. But tell us so basically the whole system eventually it ended. Just tell us, are we at that point in the story where you can go there and tell us about how did that thing sort of start winding itself down?
Well, the end of indentured labor, after all the pressure from people like Pandit Sanadia in his book, and the numbers of suicides that were happening, and all this pressure of why Indians were good enough to be laborers in the colonies of British colonies, but they weren't good enough to be citizens. And the Komagata Maru is a great example of that here in Canada, where Indians came here and were sent back, but we are British citizens just the same. So eventually it came a point in time where the Indian people themselves just had enough and they stopped, and that was it. The Indian indentured labor was finished. But there is still a 4-year time where people were being shipped from Fiji or from India to Fiji to work as indentured laborers. And it wasn't until January 1st, 1920, that all indentured labor contracts, all gidimits were canceled. And that day I like to think of as our Emancipation Day. In Fiji right now, we celebrate Gidimit Day, and I think we should be honoring Girimitia Day instead. But I think there is a day to celebrate, and January 1st is that day. That's our Emancipation Day. That's the day that I can imagine that in 1920 of January 1st, the streets were just filled with people celebrating because they didn't have to go back to indentured labor anymore.
Oh, man, I'm putting my hands up in the air, everybody. We're just a little bit of you can feel you can feel the shift. This is a movement. This is a mission that Rizwaan's on. What I'm going to surprise you in a little bit down the road as we wrap up here in a while about a mission that you've brought into my life where I'm joining your mission. I've put something on the screen here. This is very emotional for me, but since I met Rizwaan a few months ago and started digging into this, part of my thesis too is digging into my heritage. This is the pass that the immigration pass for my paternal great grandfather, Mr. Bhagwan Ram, 100%. And if you look closely, I know it's hard to see on the screen, but he was 17 years old when he was cleared on the ship. Dude, when I got this, it took me a couple of days to process it. I managed mental health throughout my life anyway because of my concussion years ago, but I went through depression. I went through a bit of stress. I went through almost like relief that at least now I know there's a connection. But I want to just talk for a minute about doing this research and learning about this part of my heritage, which is a big part of why I'm doing this interview with you, to educate, to inspire, to reclaim our identity, to give peace, so we can start focusing, as you just said, Rizwaan, on the good things. We can start focusing on the good things about our heritage. So here's the thing. That was my paternal great-grandfather. Here's what I've learned about my grandfather. My dad wrote an article. He was a writer, and he had a little magazine and stuff. But I found this article through that research where my dad wrote it to celebrate a birthday of one of his family members. This was like in the early 2000s. And my grandfather was obviously my dad's dad, right? That pass is for my paternal grandfather, which is his dad's dad. And my grandfather, you may not know him, or maybe you do, and I won't get into his name on the show yet for privacy reasons, but he was known in Fiji for somebody who was an incredible man. He had a corner store. My dad said they used to call him Lali Mirage, and my dad wrote in the article that the word Lali, and I guess in the native language, is candy. So he would give out candy to all the kids who would come by. And as I read more and more about the story about him, my granddad, he looked after 20 different families. So think about this, man. And this is really emotional. I miss my dad so much. I wish he was here. He'd be proud of you and what we're doing. But my dad was a raging alcoholic, and he ruined his life, man. And as you know, the celebration part of that is, I learned that after 22 years, my dad was actually, he was in AA, but he was in the communities, and they said at his funeral he was a pillar. He would help so many people. He'd go into prisons and talk to people, etc. But then when I think about now, for all my life is about the pain I was in, just wondering, why was my dad such addicted, and why did my life go that way? And then this whole thing started giving me peace. And it's exactly what you said. And let me just finish on this, and I'll give it back to you to comment. That I brought that up for a reason. Our upbringing, our parents shape us, our experiences. So if you follow me on this, I'm not as clear sometimes with my thoughts. My dad's dad, my paternal great-grandfather, came at age 70 to Fiji as an indentured slave. Everything we know about what you've taught us and what I've read, it was probably a horrible experience. I'm still digging into that, but I can't imagine at age 17, and it looks like from the ship, because I found the ship he was on, once he got cleared medically, there were like 2-3 days before he left. So he had to go through all this crap being held in this holding area. 17, probably pulled away from his family. All right, think about that. 17, told, oh, hey, here, you can go for 5 years and you're going to make better money and it's going to be great. And you can come back to your family. And then he comes over and he would have experienced that. Then he's my dad's dad. So I can imagine, and my grandfather passed away, so I never met him, what transferred down through that story, how that affected him. My grandfather was an alcoholic too, and my dad's life was pretty tough when he grew up. So as I started thinking about all this, it was like this freeing moment for me. It's like, no wonder why I gave more forgiveness in my mind about my dad. My dad grew up with a father who was raised pretty tough. But when I learn about this and his father, you start putting all those pieces together. Yeah. But then now I'm so proud of you, man. I'm working on in myself doing what you taught me, which is focusing on the people and the resilience. So Lali Mirage, my dad's dad, the resilience of what he did in Fiji, and he's known as this kind of guy bigger than life. And then when I started looking at why the heck was my dad writing about human rights, and why was he involved in the Fiji Canada Association? He was always, I remember him when I did have him in my life, he was always for people. He was always cared despite his drinking. What was that all about? And it all comes back to this big story. I just want to say thank you for letting me ramble and throw up on you on that. But I have to say thanks, and I'm going to pass it back to you to give me some relief for a minute. But everybody, what I do want to say to you is we want to use this interview, and we're going to do a lot more work, connect to Rizwaan for the education piece, to find your connections and your heritage so you can celebrate. When you have something that's come from the dust that's turned into the great, it makes me so proud to be Indo-Fijian and to know what my parents were, what my grandfather was. I'll give it back to you.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I totally agree. Like before I started on my own journey of self-reflection and self-identification, I didn't even want to do anything about Indo-Fijian studies and cultural studies at all. Like I was so turned off on a lot of the issues that I was seeing in my culture that I didn't want to be a part of it. But you know, after my dad passed away, and I felt like I had to honor him and study and preserve his heritage and his culture. And while I was doing that, I came to realize that his heritage and his culture is just as much mine as it is his. He's my dad, after all. Like, nobody can take that away from me. And I really owned it. But it wasn't until I started identifying all these traumas that were happening to us historically that I started understanding how that generational trauma was trickling in to my culture. And how, and one of the biggest reasons, like, say, why we're crabs in a bucket, for example, why we always love pulling each other down and not having one of us become better than the other, is because we don't have that's a self-identification, that pride in ourselves to be proud of who we are as a collective group. And the more we study about our history, the more pride we get as a collective group, because we have a foundation, man. We have with the ancestors who are that rock, that solid foundation we can build upon. We just need to identify them, not just on a personal level, but on a macro level as a group of people as well. And the coolest thing is, like, that past of yours, right? Because you can always find them in the personal level too, because there is one of them, two of them, four of them that are related directly to us, to each and every one of us. Yeah,
unbelievable. And that was something that someone in that room that day when we were hearing your presentation said, that every Fijian in its community in Canada has some connection to this story.
Yeah,
pretty amazing. Yep. Very proud of that. Hey, we're doing well. What a great conversation. I have a couple surprises for you. Are you ready to get surprised?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay. I think quite frankly, we did a good job. You did a good job defining that chapter, and this will be such a great educational piece. What I'm thinking of doing, Riz, and we can talk offline, is doing it, maybe having you and I do it together, but using something like that PowerPoint, but doing an educational video where instead of, we strip out the stories and things because we've done that, but I can have a separate item that I can bolt on, because I'm trying to going to release all this sort of as a series, right? So meet the man who introduced me to this chapter that found celebration in my life. Here's, by the way, the facts. So we can work on that together if you're open for that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, any opportunity to increase the Indo-Fijian culture here in Canada or in the world, I mean, I'm always down for that.
Imagining with AI. Hey, do you know what AI is? Artificial intelligence. Well, everyone, I embrace it. And so me and my pal AI, ChatGPT, had a conversation. And I said, hey, I want to create 3 images. And in AI, there's some tools. And one of them is called DALL-E. It's an image creator. So I thought, wow, how can I spice this up so Rizwaan loves me even more? I want to create 3 pictures of this, the past Rizwaan Abbas, the present Rizwaan, and the future Rizwaan. 3 images. So what I did, if you don't know AI, I did all the research through everything I learned about you, Rizwaan. I fed it into ChatGPT and I started collaborating. So this is my work too. I said, all right, here's the man. Here's his bio. Here's what I know about him from the past. Here's the present. Oh, hey, what will the world look like when he's finished with it? Or what will the future look like based on the mission that he's on, which many of you heard about today? All right, so are you ready? Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to basically put on the screen a slide. Your number one job is just to watch it, to let the emotion feel in, and I'm going to, when I say, tell me one word you're feeling, I want one emotion, one word, okay, that you feel when you see that image. Okay. You got it? All right. So drum roll, please. The past Rizwaan Abbas, this is what they came up with. Past Rizwaan, I called this Roots of Identity. Look at that handsome guy. The descriptor, you can't see this in the podcast, but on the video you'll see it. Rizwaan's early years were shaped by a strong academic focus, commitment to understanding the cultural roots of his Indo-Fijian heritage. This period laid the foundation for his future work in archaeology and cultural preservation. And he pursued advanced studies in archaeology, gradually uncovering the layers of his history that would define his career. One word.
Studious, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I like that. I like that I got hair, at least. That's a good thing.
Sorry, podcasters, you'll have to watch the YouTube premiere video when it's out because you got to see these photos. All right. Here we go. Are you ready for the present Rizwaan Abbas? Drum roll, please. Here we go. Okay. I love this photo, and there's actually several iterations, dude. And where it started, it was like, what is that? Okay. The Guardian of Heritage. This is what I created the titles. The Guardian of Heritage is the present Rizwaan Abbas. Today, Rizwaan Abbas is a dedicated archaeologist actively involved in preserving the cultural heritage of both the Indo-Fijian community and the Semiahmoo First Nation. His work is a testament to his deep commitment to ensuring that the stories of these cultures are told and remembered for generations to come.
Yeah.
One word.
Yeah, man, that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. I love it.
That's cool.
What you're also seeing, and come back and watch this again, because these are teaching moments. I'm taking you on a journey, but I want everybody, when you watch this again, to look at Rizwaan's body language, look at what's happening in his face. When he's looking at these photos, you can see this incredible shift in him. And so that says a lot about how connected he is. Okay, finally.
I like the excavation tools. Those aren't actual real shovels and picks. I like that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, he's talking about the picture we're looking at about the present Rizwaan, everyone, and you see some of those tools. All right, drum roll, please. Are you ready for the future?
All right.
There it is. My goodness. The future, we call this the legacy of cultural revival. Looking into the future, Rizwaan Abbas's work in cultural preservation has left an indelible mark on society. His efforts have culminated in a cultural renaissance, with future generations engaging with Indo-Fijian and Indigenous Canadian histories through advanced interactive exhibits that ensure these stories are never forgotten. Take it all in, one word.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a little much. This one. That's I don't know. I don't even know. I got no words. I got no words for you, man. That's
the best. That's the best answer. No words. But if you take your body language, what's happening with your face and everything, there's something deep there. You're a man who I believe, and I haven't come to, you're very humble. One of the things I ask you to do is dig deep and accept your greatness, how good you are. This, to me, even though it's envisioned by AI, when you look at this image, everybody, if you can see it, you see this future where Rizwaan's looking at his future self, but he's looking at some of the shifts that he's made in the world. You see Indo-Fijian, Indigenous Canadian. You see a whole bunch of things going on there. Pretty fantastic. So congratulations. We'll give you a round of applause. What do you think of that tour? Pretty
it's
cool.
Actually, if I keep, and I'm going to be honest with you, man, like if I keep, and this is, and I've never told anybody this before, but that future one, yes, my plan, if I just keep doing what I keep doing, and if I keep working at this, then maybe someday, someone will remember that I wrote about this stuff. But all I can do is just keep going on and doing what I'm doing, man.
Well, thank you for saying that, and it is. I'm honored that you shared that on my show, and the next slide is going to tell you why I say that. There's a saying that in life things are created twice, once in thought, second in the physical equivalent. And I want you to think about, man, that everything you're doing, including your education, you've done so much every day when you're playing in your sandbox and digging, and when you're with your kids, and when you're writing articles, and when you're here taking time with me, which is amazing. You are manifesting that future. And you've already changed my life, as I've told you. If you didn't come into my life, I would not be talking the way I am about understanding. So I want to thank you for that. There's many more people you're going to touch. So I said to AI, I got to tell him about how I feel about all this work, because he's brought me into his mission. So I'm announcing that I'm now joining your mission through my platform, my public works, which is media, my podcast, my books, all the things I'm doing, and my presence in the community. I want to help. So this photo here is an image of today. It's on the screen there. Tom Dutta and Rizwaan Abbas igniting the mission, August 23rd, 2024. Let me read this out to you. This image represents the pivotal moment when Tom Dutta and Riz Abbas came together on August 23rd, 24, to launch their shared mission on the Quiet Warrior Show. The setting is a modern podcast studio where the two leaders unite to educate, inspire, and begin the revival of Indo-Fijian culture in Canada. The image symbolizes the start of a journey filled with purpose, collaboration, and cultural reclamation. One word.
Well, oh, this is awesome. I got 2 words: awesome, and for the photo, Michael Jackson's Dangerous.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So basically, you should see the wacky photos that came out. There was a guy with a long beard and all this, and I went. Yeah. And then there was a woman with chubby woman. It was like, so AI said, I think I'll create an avatar so that we can get closer. Here, I said, my last photo for you is looking ahead 5 years. I wonder what the work we're doing, you and your lane, me and mine, and where we cross, will be looking like in 5 years. And just something fun I wanted to leave you with. Tom Dutta and Rizwaan Abbas, the Bridge of Heritage. I call this the Bridge of Heritage. Vision 2030. This is 5 years out. I cheated a bit. I went a few more months, because it's 5 years will be 2029.
Nice round number.
Absolutely. Let me read it. This image represents the collaboration between Tom and Riz, 5 years into the future, reflecting their mission to educate, inspire, and revitalize the Indo-Fijian community in Canada. The image incorporates symbols of the, I can't say that, you can say for them, Girmatias, such as ships and plantations and the flags of Canada, Fiji, India, alongside modern podcasting elements. It emphasizes unity, cultural revival, and the positive impact of their work on healing and community engagement. One word.
Yeah, wow.
That's pretty cool, huh? And so if you look deep in all these digital assets are coming to you as my gift. You'll get all this plus the images. So let's pull that off the screen. Wow, what a tour it's been. I finished with one last question, which you can comment on as much as you like, and that is this question I call legacy and future of Indo-Fijian heritage. So as we look to that future, I'm curious about how you envision your legacy, even if you say one word. And if you could leave one enduring message or lesson for future generations through the work you're doing, or what would it be? What would it be?
Wow, that's a powerful question. I think my legacy is just through my work, what I leave behind, my children, and if my work can help inspire a spark of cultural recognizance, if that's not even a real word. Cultural recognizance, let's use that word, in themselves, to be able to feel like they're not on an island unto themselves, then I think I'm doing what I set out to do. What I find is that most of us are all really the same. As Indo-Fijians, we're searching for ourselves and our identity, and people of the same ilk. And we're here, we're around. We just got to find each other.
Exactly. Lost and found. That's why it's like two brown guys on a screen. We found each other. There's many more of us out there. All right. As I move to wrap up and give you the last word where we can get a hold of you and stuff, I want to just honor you with something here. So we'll put another image on the screen here. So you can see I have a piece of paper here. And as I'm interviewing, I am not scripted. I do not script anything. These words are leadership words that I attach to you, my friend. And they're indelibly attached to this interview. So just take this in from my heart. One is love. It comes out of you. I can feel it, and it's in your actions. Two is knowledge. They say the difference between wisdom and knowledge is time. The knowledge that you have, I'd even call you a maven. If somebody wants to know about archaeology and these topics you've talked about, I'd see your picture in the dictionary. Number three, criticality, because you do it so well, and I think it's because of the work you've done in your education too. But you're able to, when you talk, connect the dots to the bigger picture of the world, to your sector, what you're doing in your field, and you openly bring in your heritage, your childhood, your family. And I think that's criticality. That's an example. And the last word, you're fun. We didn't get into all the crazy stuff. We could have worn your Grant Fuhrer hat and put on those funny glasses I saw you wearing. But that's my commitment to you. Well, we'll do this again, and next time I think we'll be two crazy Indo-Fijians and just have some fun. But on that note, I give it back to you for the last word. Tell us anything where people can get a hold of you, any last words, and then we'll move to wrap.
Yeah, if you guys want to get a hold of me on Instagram, is the best way, at Rizwaan Abbas.
Okay.
That's my name's spelled there as RizWaad,
Yeah, I'm on that Instagram feed too, so it's pretty amazing. And if you get a chance, everybody, shameless plug here for Rizwaan, the magazine, British Columbia History. Google it, find the link to that. Did you know you're getting an award today?
No, I did not.
Okay, Rizwaan, you're getting an award today. So what I have in my hand here, and we'll put it sort of closer, it's in a little sleeve, is what's called a challenge coin. Have you heard of these?
No, I haven't.
Okay, now you have. You're supposed to say, not until now. All right. It comes with a little descriptor, so I'm just going to take a moment. It says, the history of the challenge coin surfaced during World War I era. The practice of carrying a coin designed specifically for a unit was popular with the Army Special Forces. Carrying the coin at all times and presenting it when challenged to prove affiliation with the unit resulted in a number of consequences for those who could not produce a coin. Most popular required the coinless soldier to buy a round of drinks. That practice continues to be popular today. These challenge coins you can find with first responders, teachers, any organization around the world. Challenge coins exist in a big way. So when I started the show back in 2017, I wanted to create something special because the people coming to the show are the 1%, I believe, of the world who have taken adversity, setbacks, painful moments in their history and turned it into something to serve and change the world. And so I created this challenge coin. So the front of it is the image of the show. They're hand painted and crafted. They're pretty hefty. They're made in the U.S. The image of the Quiet Warrior show. I think it's just fabulous. And the back of it is really intricately outlining the hero's journey narrative by Joseph Campbell. And that narrative of the journey we take when we have a calling and we go on this journey to dig and learn, no pun, and then come back with a purpose to do something meaningful to change the world. So congratulations and welcome to the Quiet Warrior community. These coins are now in 19 countries. There's now maybe close to 200 and maybe 250 Quiet Warriors in the world. Welcome aboard.
Cool. Thanks, man.
What we'll be doing is we'll be doing a photo op, so I'll get with you probably at your home or somewhere meaningful we'll meet so we can get a photo and I can give this to you. And we're connected for life, so thank you. So everybody, find that true passion and purpose like you see here from Mr. Rizwaan Abbas and live that life, but live the life that you deserve and desire. And we'll see you all again on the Quiet Warrior Show. Thanks very much, Riz.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Tom, for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca